Hello students, today you will be learning or reviewing section 4.5 on solving proportions. Below are the notes that we took in class. Remember, you can always press pause because I won't spend a lot of time on this section of the notes, but there are your review words. These were some of the examples that we did in class today. Remember, a ratio is just a fraction comparing two numbers. And if I want to see if they make a proportion, I have to see if they equal each other. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the time to set them equal. 4 over 7, 32 over 56. I'm going to put the equal sign in between, but that is what I'm trying to find. Do they equal? In class, we talked about the fact that we could turn this into a decimal by dividing, that we could reduce if we can reduce, and at last but not least, if we can't do any of those, then we'd have to cross multiply. I noticed that both of these can be divided by 8, so I'm going to take the time to divide these by 8, and if I divide 32 by 8, I get 4. 56 by 8, I get 7. So I find that 4 sevenths equals 4 sevenths. And yes, they are proportional. I am then going to try another problem. I am going to see, does 44 fifteenths, is that proportional, or is that the same as 11 over 5? So I want to do the same thing I did last one. Can I reduce anything? Well, 11 over 5 cannot be reduced, and 44 over 15 cannot be reduced. So there's not a whole lot that I can do here. I can either cross multiply, or I can see, well, this is easy enough, that to go from 11 to 44, I would multiply by 4. Whatever I do to one, I have to do to the other, so I would multiply the bottom by 4. 11 times 4 equals 44. 5 times 4 equals, 20. Well, this doesn't say 20, which must mean these are not proportional, so this would be a no. Make sure you take the time to write those out. I'll throw another example in here instead of the word problem. Let's say I had 3/5 and 19, let's do 19 21s. Okay, I want to know if these are proportional. So I'm going to put 3 over 5 and 19 over 21. Well, do they equal each other? Can anything be reduced? No, 19 over 21 cannot be reduced, and 3 over 5 cannot be reduced. Can I multiply? Is there anything I can take to make 3 equal 19? Nope. How about 5 to 21? Nope. So I must cross multiply here. So at this point, I have to cross multiply. I'm going to take 21 times 3, and I will get 63. Then I will take 5 times 19, and to do some quick math so I don't make a mistake, 9 times 5 is 45. This would end up being 95. Is 95 equal to or the same as 63? No. So these two are not proportional. No, they are not. All right, let's look at solving a few proportions. These are the examples that we did in class, so they will already be in your notes. So I'm going to skip these examples and go to the page that we did not do in class. I'll work with this page here. In order to determine if something, or right now, I'm sorry, we are told that these are proportional. So in order to figure out what the answer should be, I have to cross multiply. I'm going to go 6 times 10 to get 60. And then I'll cross multiply this way as well. And I will get 1.5p. Notice in between, I still have the equal to sign. So I have this new equation of 1.5p equals 60. In order to solve this, I have to do my railroad track problems and divide both sides by 1.5. Remember to ask yourself the questions. What am I solving for? What is bothering it? How? What's the inverse? These would cancel out or turn into 1. And then I would have to divide these. 60 divided by 1.5 is going to be 30, I believe. Let me double check with a calculator just so I don't make the same mistake as last time. It's going to be 300. No, it's going to be 40. See? It's a good thing I checked. Now that I think about it, that makes sense. So P equals 40. Again, we asked ourselves the questions, what does this mean? This means that if I come back to my original equation, I could fill in P to be 40, and it would make my proportion equal. 1.5 over 6 is the same as 10 over 40. Let's try the problem on the bottom here. How do I go from K over 7 is the same as 32 over 56? I could reduce this first if I wanted to deal with smaller numbers, but I have a feeling a lot of you won't do that at first, so let's just cross multiply. 32 times 7 is 224. And 56 times K is just 56K. And again, we have the equal sign in between. Take this whole equation and write it off to the side. 56K equals 224. I'll have to use my railroad tracks. What am I solving for? K. What's bothering it? 56. How? They're multiplying. What's the inverse? Divide. So divide both sides by 56, and you will get an answer of 4. For some of you, that probably makes sense because that is the very first example we did when we were trying to determine if they were proportional. So that makes sense that they work out. Remember to get credit for the assignment, as I'm going to expect to see all of your work here. Don't just do the problem in your head. Make sure you show me all your steps. The tricky part came to the word problems. And in class, we all got through those first word problems, but we all did not get to this set of word problems. So we're going to look at this set of word problems right here, and we'll try setting them up. Remember when I set up my fractions, I wanted to compare the same things on each side, and here's what I mean. A certain vehicle can travel 483 miles on 14 gallons of gas. So here I can tell that I'm comparing miles to miles to gallons. And I know when I talk about it, I'm talking about how many miles to the gallon do you get. So I'm going to write miles over gallon. That's what I'm comparing. I can see here that I had 483 miles to 14 gallons. The rest of the problem says to write and solve a proportion to determine how many gallons. Oh, how many gallons? I don't know. Of the gasoline this vehicle will need to travel 600 miles. Oh, I do know that. I know that miles were on top, so I'm going to write miles on top on this side over gallons, which I don't know. And if I don't know something, that's when I use a variable. You can use G for gallons if you want. It doesn't matter what variable you use. Again, possible that this could be reduced, but at this point, we might have to break out a calculator and actually just type it in and solve. 14 times 600 is 8,400, and 483x. And they equal each other. So now I have 483x equals 8,400. To solve that, I ask myself the simple questions. What am I solving for? What's bothering it? How? And what's the inverse? And in this case, the inverse is again to divide. Divide by 483. Divide by 483. And I would get 17.39. It's not enough just to answer the question. Always ask yourself, what does this mean? Well, remember that my X was right here. That's what I was looking for, and that was a number of gallons. So it's going to take me a little less than 17.5 gallons to travel 600 miles. Let's try one more. For every left-handed person, there are about 4 4 right-handed people. So here I'm comparing left hand to right hand, left to right, left to right. I know that for every 1 left hand, there were 4 right hand. How did I figure out that? Well, I must have been talking to 5 total people in order to determine that 1 was left-handed and 4 were right-handed. I had to talk to 5 people. 1 told me they were left, 4 told me they were right, 5 total people. If there were 30 students in class, how many would be right-handed? So now I want to know right-handed to total amount. So I got to figure out what ratio do I want to set up here. Left to right doesn't work because I want to figure out right to total. I know there are 30 students. 30 students is my total. How many are right? I don't know. But I do know that when I talked over to people over here, 4 of them were right-handed out of the 5 total people I talked to. Well, here's my ratio. 4 over 5 equals x over 30. In this example, I could cross multiply, but this is a nice one because I noticed that 5 times 6 is 30, so I could go 4 times 6, and x would equal 24. So that would tell me in a group of 30 people, 24 of them would be right-handed. For every person who actually has the flu, there are 6 people who have flu-like symptoms resulting from a cold. If a doctor sees 40 patients, write and solve a proportion to determine how many of these you would expect to have a cold. When it says the word for every, it's talking about 1. 1 person has the flu, 6 people have symptoms. So how many total people were there? There were 7 total people. If a doctor sees 40, 40 is the total. So I would see 40 total. I want to know how many just have a cold, and the cold were the symptoms. So I want to know how many have a cold if there were 40 total. If there were 6 out of the 7 before, cross multiply these, 7x equals 240, and then divide, and you should get a final answer of about 34 people. I hope this helps. We can talk about more examples in class if we need to. Have a good night.